My wife always is encouraging me to. She's like literally said this morning, we were talking about it. She's like, for her personally, she's enjoyed having those little phone calls throughout the day now. How we are already using phrases around the house and the words we use to describe something, so our kids are hearing it, and just building on that.
Have you ever felt like everyone else is learning Spanish and being successful except you? And you wonder if maybe you're just not cut out for this? Well, if so, then you'll enjoy my interview today with one of my clients, Luther. Now, Luther had to break through a lot of barriers, a lot of roadblocks, both with mindset as well as with some mechanical aspects of the language in order to build the confidence necessary to truly start to progress. Prior to us working together, Luther had had a desire to learn Spanish for quite a while, and he had been listening to YouTube videos, mainly children's stories, hoping that one day everything would come together and click. He also had a basic reading book that had introduced him to some basic vocabulary that he would use on occasion. Let's hear how Luther describes one of the biggest struggles that he started with, as well as his largest improvement.
The largest improvement was in, I guess it comes under the category of pronunciation, but it has to do more with my hearing. I really doubted myself that I could actually hear the words. I could read them, but I didn't think my ear worked. I thought my ear was broken, or that it's just, I thought it was more of a skill that I just could never obtain. So that was kind of the make it or break it. I was kind of going through the program thinking, well, one day, if I can't hear it, then what's the point of moving forward? Because no one's going to ever be able to understand me. And then basically I'm speaking Spanish on an island and it's only me. Why even work? So when I came down to the word, the infinitive form of repeat, repetir, it just clicked one day where I was repeating, I was working on the help phrases. And in Spanish, when that word is conjugated, it changes. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I can hear it. And that was the break where I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep going with this, because now I can actually hear the accent.
Isn't it funny how sometimes the smallest thing can end up making such a huge difference for us and just cause something to click in the brain? In this case, it was one word for Luther, the verb repetir. Okay, so the verb repetir in its infinitive, unconjugated form, well, Luther noticed that the stress on that word was different, repetir. He could hear how that sounded different. The stress was on that last syllable of the word when compared to the verb in certain conjugated forms, like repite. Repite. He started to hear that syllable stress on the second syllable in some of the conjugated forms of the verb. Now, this is such a subtle difference, but it made such a huge impact in how he started to perceive words and how he started to recognize the differences in syllable stress in the words, and as you'll see, and how he was able to change the way he himself was pronouncing Spanish words.
And another helpful part of the program is when you really walked us through the basic rules of pronunciation. And you really stress there's really only 2 to 3. Just learn those general rules and run with them. And when I put those rules, when I applied those rules to the repetir, I heard it. And I'm like, I can hear Spanish. I can know where the accent falls. I can break the word down. I'm not afraid that word is going to change and I can't hear it. I know how to change it. And then like around the 4th week and the diphthong exercises, I just worked so hard during that. That was probably the hardest week that I worked. But I walked away with a huge victory.
And I could tell, I mean, that was amazing even for me. Like the difference was night and day. You sent me that audio of me reading the Going to New York story, and I'm like, who is this? Because
I know.
This is not the Luther of 2 weeks ago.
Right.
It was incredible.
Comunicación.
Yeah.
Un viaje a Nueva York. El año pasado fuimos a Nueva York. Fue una experiencia muy interesante. vi 4 de mis viejas amigas. Lamentablemente, una ya era viuda. Hoy estoy empacando para ir de nuevo a Nueva York.
I was working hard during those weeks, like, because that was it. That was the make it or break it. Like, if I don't do this, I'm not going forward because I can't hear the words.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh, I don't want to give up. I've worked so hard at this. I've come so far. Just trying to figure this out. I went back to the rules. Okay, these are not really hard rules. In fact, man, they're like ABC rules. I made them way harder than they should be.
Yeah.
Trust the rule. It governs how we say the word. And then I heard it. And I'm like, I'm in. I can do this.
I love that.
So-
It really is. You know, this is why we put pronunciation in that foundational phase, even though it can be the most tedious thing to work
Yeah.
through. But the worst thing is never doing that and then studying Spanish, like many people do, for 2 and 3 years, and they feel like, I know all of these phrases, I can understand. They go to speak and no one understands what they're saying. The pronunciation was never addressed. So now they have to go back from the beginning and learn all of these phrases, all of these words that they thought that they knew again. And that's what I don't want for people. And so, just see you have that breakthrough and, knowing that, it's a continual process. So you're going to, continue to refine your ear and do that reading out loud, reading out loud, shadowing with the audio. But, it was just something clicked for you.
For me, it was really probably the biggest doubt that I had, that I could actually hear the word. Because I struggle with English words sometimes. Am I saying this right? Can I hear it? But I'm like, no, I don't want to give up. My wife always is encouraging me too. She's like, man, she's like literally said this morning, we're talking about it. She's like, for her personally, she's enjoyed having those little phone calls throughout the day now. And I'm like, right on. And how we are already using phrases around the house and the words we use to describe something so our kids are hearing it, and just building on that. And that's really pertinent to me and relevant to me. And 2 things I take away from that is that I was treating it like an exam, and then 2 weeks ago you basically stepped in and say, whoa, time out, don't treat this like an exam. It's not. And I'm like, oh, well, it's not an exam. And that's just old educational ideology that we just have to just figure out, work through it. I'm like, oh, this is not the presentation is not an exam. And going forward, actually, Erica, that was really helpful. Like, I'm like, man, these presentations are part of a goal, but they're not exams.
Exactly.
See how that old thinking still comes through? I think a lot of people that probably are in a situation where, like I am in, will have to meet that head on. I'm like, yeah, just get rid of that.
So for my clients who want to begin speaking, we get them set up with a specific and relevant speaking goal for them that they can focus on while they continue with the rest of their comprehensive routine. And this helps them build up the vocabulary that they need to actually have the types of conversations that they want to have. And we call this the presentation. But as Luther said, it's not an exam. It's something that should be fun and enjoyable and exciting for you as you picture being able to accomplish that specific speaking goal. Always consider your interest and those things that excite you when you're building out your plan, because in this case, Luther discovered that in addition to these daily conversations with his wife, which in Spanish, which he really started to enjoy, as a very kinesthetic learner, he also loved writing, and he would love to break sentences apart, make little vocabulary substitutions, and rewrite them. He described that as one of his favorite activities.
And also allowing the freedom and to see goals, and then the presentation part of it change.
Yes.
Went from a dinner time conversation to phone calls, and it still met the criteria, and just allowing that. And that was a very big thing for me to learn too. Is like, these goals have room to change. This is not like a one-size-fits-all report that I have to do to meet the curriculum. This can start out like this, but it can quickly adapt to something else and change to something else, and that is okay.
Definitely.
And it went from dinner time conversations to actually phone conversations. And it was good just to see you say, hey, that's part of it. It's still meeting
Definitely.
kind of the overall shape of the original goal, and let it change a little bit.
Definitely. Yes. The goal is just, to set the direction,
Yep.
to get an idea of what kind of things you need to learn for the type of conversation that you want to have.
For many people out there that really want to learn a language, this is truly a remarkable time in human history to learn a language because of technology and the online resources.
Mhm.
And so I would hope that so many people would find your program, because it'll open up a whole new world for them. And like we said, the flip side though is that we're going into the online world. It is like swimming in a big ocean. And I would say that, and this is maybe more for someone like me, I would probably just direct it towards myself. I wasn't able to go out and swim without a lifeguard, right? I
Mhm.
need, and it's very much like swimming. And there's just some things in life that we need a coach to get us going into these waters. I'm speaking in a metaphor, but that is where the coaching help navigate that online world that is so right now important for people to learn another language, but can be a place where you just get lost and give up too. So I'm very thankful for the course and your coaching to just walk me through the online world of learning another language, and then bring in the structure. And I remember that diagram of learning in a classroom, how it's a very specific dot of learning, and you might fill in one little square, but the overall grasp of the language is so isolated, you haven't learned.
Yeah.
But then doing it on your own, the dots are everywhere. And for many of us, especially me, just those executive function skills, bringing it all together, I needed help. So the coaching and the framework structure put a picture before my mind that I'm like, oh, wow, I see the structure. I get it. I can do this. And that would come under the category of what I would call the independent learner. And I got that from you, where we can learn outside the classroom. Many of us have been taught a very narrow view of that. And I'm not pointing fingers at anyone. It's just how it works. It's there's only so many, there's limited resources out there in educational systems, and there's so many kids to teach. You kind of have to have a one size fits all. And so many of us kind of miss that golden opportunity in some ways as a child. And it's truly not to point the finger, and then you walk away like, well, I lost that. Language is only for kids, and many of us see people learning it under extreme circumstances. They're immigrating into another country, or they're in a situation where they kind of out of necessity have to learn another language, and we're not in those situations. So it's kind of like you feel like you lose a precious opportunity. But I walk away with like, wow, that precious opportunity is still with me.
Mhm.
That's amazing. It's still in me.
Mhm.
And then to have the understanding put in a framework that's attainable. Everyone's different. I didn't see it. You saw me over the weeks have to break through those barriers, those mindset barriers, that I can actually do this.
Yeah.
And just know that, wow, language it's free to all humans.
Mhm.
This is an innate gift to every single human that is alive. And why not take it again? Because the world is a remarkable place. And the sun just doesn't set in Minnesota. It stretches all the way down to you in Mexico and beyond. And I'm like, I can follow that sun if I want to and go talk to the people down there at the other end of the planet. That'd be
Yes.
awesome. It
Yes.
takes a little work, but it's attainable. It's still in me. It's always been there. That's probably the primary thing I walk away with. That the ability to learn a second or third or fourth language, whatever the person wants to try to obtain, it's obtainable.
Mhm.
And man, that's priceless to me.
You've really embraced the point of the course, of the program, of everything. And I just wish you all of the best.
No, thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, I really do, really do. You've come a long way. You've done really, really nice work. And yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Luther. I've learned a lot from you too.
Luther learned that as a natural part of language learning, there will be ups and downs and sometimes dips in motivation. But ultimately, he learned that he can do it because, as he mentioned, he has the innate ability to do it. As anyone who has been able to learn one language, our native language, we all have that capacity to learn another language as well. Luther made spectacular progress, but best of all, he walked away with a plan of how to continue progressing in a way that would actually work for him. A huge thank you to Luther for allowing me to share this portion of his journey and hopefully encourage you and remind you that there will be obstacles in your way, but you can move past them and you can learn to enjoy the process. Remember that language learning is all about enjoying the journey. Are you struggling right now with any of those things that Luther had been struggling with, or something else entirely? Well, let me tell you that up until this point, the only way for you and I to work together and for me to support you was through my one-on-one program. And even though I love working one-on-one with clients, because of the level of support that I do supply to my one-on-one clients, I'm only ever able to work with a very small handful at a time. And watching the waiting list grow longer and longer made me sad, honestly, because I knew that there was no way that I could ever work one-on-one with everyone that was needing support. So I'm really happy to let you know about another opportunity that I have just opened as of this week, but it does close on Monday. So click the link below to learn all about my Framework to Fluency program, a self-paced program with the entire curriculum that I lay out for my one-on-one clients in a different package, and a package that is available to more people, and you'll also have support in there as well. Enrollment will close on Monday, September the 20th, so don't delay. So many of you have joined this week, which is super exciting, and I cannot wait to support you all. I hope that you join us in there as well. You can learn all about that at the link below. I will see you all next time, but don't forget to go out and live your new language today. Bye-bye.